Um, okay, can you hear me at the back there? All right then. So welcome to this first artist network for Shape and the talk by Evan McPeake. I'm just going to give a quick housekeeping issues. Fire. If there is a fire alarm, we shouldn't be having one. So do exit outside of this door for later on. Toilets are down this side. We'll be doing the artist talk to somewhere around about 7:10, on which we're going to break off to do the artist networking, where I'm going to quickly ask you to make your way to the bar so we can rearrange some chairs. After that time, you'll get opportunity to speak to Evan McPeake and ask him all your questions that you will no doubt have from this session. And also in addition to that, there's some lots of Shape staff around, myself, a couple of people at the back down there and over there, and they have got this two amazing opportunities for artists at the moment. One which is called the Adam Reynolds Memorial Bursary, which is going to take place at the V&A, and applications are open for that now. And then we've got the Shape Open, which is an open submission exhibition, which is going to open next week. So come and find out about that, or do check out our website. So I'll hand it over now to Tony Heaton, OBE, who's our CEO at Shape, and he's going to say a few words before we introduce Emma McPeake.
Thanks, Ben. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Great to see you all. Can you hear me all right if I don't pick this microphone up? Yeah? Great. This is the first of our networking meetings, as Ben said, so it's really great that we've got a good crowd of people, and it's really great that we've got Aaron McPeake, who, as Ben said, is the winner of the Adam Reynolds Memorial Bursary for this year. And one of the things I wanted to say about Aaron was that I think I've got to know him a little bit over the course of the bursary, which is 3 months, and Aaron's bursary was at Spike Island in Bristol, and he's going to talk about that. But we did interview Aaron for the Adam Reynolds Bursary the year before, which was at Camden Arts Centre, and he was shortlisted for that. But he wasn't the bursary recipient. But what he did do, and what Camden was really impressed by in his work, is that they then went on to commission him to make a piece of work for the garden at Camden Arts Centre. So when he applied the next year, he laughingly said to me, you know, if I win it, there's a real bonus here. So I've sort of got two for the price of one. So I've got a piece of work out of the year before from Camden Arts Centre, and if I win it this year, then that's a real bonus. And he did, in fact, go on to become the bursary recipient. So he's done a fantastic job at Spike Island. He's done some really interesting work, which he's going to talk about. So without further ado, as they say, I'm going to hand over to Aaron, and thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Can you hear me clearly? Yeah, that's good. What I'm going to do is just talk a bit about my work before the residency, and then I've got quite a lot of slides, so I'm going to probably bamboozle you with far too much visual material than some video material, and then I'll go on to talk about the residency and what I did there, and sum up with what I'm going to do next, or what I plan to do next. So if I can get the next slide.
For me, there was to win the residency. There's a number of ways to approach it, either by making work, to develop work that was new to you, to have the space and time to play. Now, being funded is a luxury that, well, everyone here can appreciate. To be given a space to work in, the time to do it, and the wherewithal. I mean, you don't have to worry about you've got enough money to survive on hand to pay for materials. It's a real privilege, but I have a very clear approach to it. But I'll go into that in a bit more detail later. in 2002, I lost most of my vision. Luckily, I'd lost a lot of vision in one eye, so it was about 20 years ago, but in 2002, the other one caught up. The images, the image on the left, it's a little bit generous. It's about 5 years old, so I haven't got that amount of acuity anymore. And the image on the right is obviously a sharp, Snellen chart. So that's where I'm coming from. And the way I approach work, I finished a PhD a couple of years ago, and my thesis was about vision loss for adventitious blindness, which is vision loss in grown-ups, adults. And I took an approach to the research, or the sort of the academic side of things, and also I've been able to apply it to everything I do in terms of artwork. And it comes from these guys, which is a terrible book. I wouldn't recommend anyone read it, fill it by all means, but this process, I think you can apply it to both research and to one's making process. I can't see it, but I remember, is why this material? So that's your first question, whatever it is. And then instigate dialogue with material, to have a really critical kind of conversation. And then it's looking for hidden power. Artists are very good at lying about what they do to themselves and to others, and retrofitting ideas that seem convenient. So I think pretty much all artists I know, whether they're Royal Academicians or Turner Prize winners, would agree with that. So you've got to be careful of it, because we do fall into traps of fetish. Then, seeking those hidden power structures. Then we move on to how to find your voice, and how you're going to synthesize all of that work and material. And then, when you finish that, of course, it's a cyclical thing. You go back to number one again. So that's the way I kind of try and approach all sorts of work. Large body of work I make in film and in photography is the shadow. Pretty much how I see the world is very much a shadowy affair. People are shapes. I recognize it, but unless I know them very, very well, I tend to recognize, even people I know very well, I tend to recognize them by their gait, how they move, the shape. So somebody I don't know that well cuts their hair. I met someone yesterday and she had previously very long hair, and it took me about half an hour to realise who it was. This is a collection of photographs that runs simultaneously with work I did in East Asia, which was a travelogue celebrating a chap called James Holman, who was 19th century. He was known as the blind traveller, and he kind of travelled around the world. Right? He wasn't trying to reenact his journeys, because he went by sailing ship, and that's not quite possible or affordable. But it was basically following that theme, but by documenting the shadow. Now, these works I don't give, when they're the prints, I don't give them titles, they're just image numbers, because I think that's 3967. But if you put a title on that, which is Man with a Monkey in Southern Laos, then it completely changes its, those that are encountering it take on it. So I like the idea with shadows, and I'll show you a clip of some film. Is thinking outside the frame. So you're presented with something, but by being presented, I hope, one is looking at what is this? What am I looking at? What's outside it? And with the film, what I did was use very high quality, if I may say so, but we spent a lot of money on microphones. Very high quality ambient sound, and took the colour out of the shadow. So the film, which I'll show you quickly a little bit, 2 minutes. Again, this is an example of titling. This is a substation in northern Thailand. Now that had exploded the night before. So if it said something about the exploded substation, then that would have, again, very different. And this is a still from the film, which I'll show you a clip of in a minute, which is a travelogue through Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, which we didn't quite get as much as we'd like to because my mother died during the filming and we had to cut that short. And that's still filmed. Okay. Another series of work we did on the shadow was this is in 2009 in Bihar in India. I got greedy and also managed to get some funding from the university to do the project. And this was to get the biggest shadow, which is a total solar eclipse, and the longest one for about, I think it's about 200 years before we get another one that long. It's about 6 minutes in totality, which was remarkable. So I thought, if we can get the biggest shadow, then get it. With this film, we set up the cameras to, it was a bit of a disaster. We had 3 cameras and 2 microphones. Everything started to break about 10 minutes before things just went wrong. So if we could just go to just on this note of technical things, doing the interviews for Cameron and for Spike Island, I did embedded sounds and video into the PowerPoint, tested them on my machine, tested them on friends' machines, tested them on a college machine. When I got to the venues, both occasions didn't work. So PowerPoint is a particularly sticky situation. If you want to embed sounds and images, I'd be very careful. But it's the nature of technical bits. There's the what hole. So it's not reading that, so maybe there's a piece of, there's a journey after. It's not fine. Now, as I said, the first project, the Cambodia, Laos, Thailand project, had to be cut short because my mother died. And this is a film I made the day after the funeral when I was taking a train journey, which I took as a child very often, and it's just filming a reflection of the table. I deliberately took the audio out of this because the noise of the train and the noise of the announcements and the noise of the chatter is a little distracting, but is of a much longer journey. I can't remember how many minutes it is, but for this purpose, it's a bit too long. If you could play the sunrise. And this is the beginning of the sunrise to the eclipse. The eclipse happens shortly after the sunrise. Again, these are all available on my website if you want to touch yourself with the longer versions. The bell sound, and maybe you could hear the monks, that was from a local Thai monastery. Gaya, where we filmed this, is a sort of very, very big Buddhist centre in India, where the Buddha allegedly was enlightened under the tree. So you have monasteries from lots and lots of different countries, Sri Lankans, Thai, Cambodians, Burmese, and many others. So the sound of that bell was the call to them doing the morning chanting. So we used those sounds from the area around where we were filming. The kids on the day were they'd watched us kind of rehearse it for about 4 or 5 days before, and they behaved fantastically well. And then on the day of the eclipse, they just went bananas and made our lives a bit difficult. Also, I should credit that I make all the film work I make is with a chap called Alex Marshall, who's a filmmaker and works at the Curzon Soho as well, which has been quite lucky because we've been able to show things there at a large scale. But the eclipse, what was really fascinating, apart from being stunned by this shadow just coming racing towards you, was the looking overhead and the stars come out. It literally when they've switched on, faded up very quickly. Also the insect sounds, which you can hear, it needs quite high res, either headphones or similar audio, but the insects, different insects started to cheep, which was really noticeable. It's something that with audio if you know the signs and insects, you can't be defrauded. It's a bit like people that know trains or motorcycles. If you play the wrong audio, you're caught out. So you go back to so I make a lot of bells, objects from bell metal, which is the European alloy that the church bells come from. Also, I feel like to film them. And there's a bell here, which are cast as my band. Now, the bells are really culturally are announcers of events, be it on a ship for time, but also churches for announcing funerals, weddings, deaths, Easter's, Christmas celebrations, and also in East Asia, this is similar connotation with bells and that marking of time and marking of events, marking of wishes. That slide actually is a large Japanese bell in Gaia, which we filmed. It's a film of that. And this is a Tibetan prayer wheel, which you turn by walking around it, and it has two bells striking. Again, that's available to listen to. This is a Sri Lankan monastery. And that was announcing the call to chants. Next. I'm also really interested in confining the gallery or museum convention, not touching anything. I really like people who touch stuff. Because it's an unusual thing to do. Occasionally it does go wrong when they just over-touch it and break it. But these are two pieces I made for Cape Farewell, which is an organisation that looks into particularly the Greenland ice sheet and the oceanography, different issues of climate change. But what I did was, with all of these two bells and the stands that they're in from scrap material, I upcycled 9mm bullet shells, which I managed to glide from the police. And the timbers were bits of railway sleepers that were required to go in somebody's wood-burning stove, or get chopped up to go in a wood-burning stove, and I'll rescue those. Now the thing with, again, it's another East Asian business, is that sort of swords into plowshares, certainly in Laos and Vietnam, Cambodia, they make buildings from unexploded ordnance. Well, they take explosives out first, obviously. But and in temples you'll see flower pots from cluster bombs or from mortar shells. So it's that thing of taking something really ugly and harmful and turning it into something certainly not harmful and quite beautiful. And this is another piece I did for Cape Farewell, which is a cast bell from some of you might be old enough to remember a fire engine, and the manually run bell. And that's this. I took a cast of that and cast one in ice, so it's a film of the bell in context with the Greenland ice sheet. That's just halfway through its next. Oh yes, this is a bell that's at Millbank in Chelsea. It's quite a lot bigger than it looks. It weighs about 65 kilos. And it's a rescued ship's bell that I reconditioned and recast the inside for a clapper. next. Again, that's used as an event space, so it's used as a kind of a way to round up people for if they rent the place for weddings or make speeches. And this one's a bell profile for a piece that I did in the next one. And when you spin that, it becomes with a lot of exposure. It appears to have the full makeup of the bell. And next. And this was for a piece that it's at Chelsea. Now, this piece is called Some Cuts Resonate, and it was a kind of a take on arts and education cuts. So you can't quite afford a whole one, but if you spin one really quickly, reflect the flow of the fall. So this is just a process of it. It was made at Castle at Whitechapel Bell Foundry, and that's an open load casting, which I seem to be the only person that does, because it's really cheap way of doing things. You make the clay, which is horse manure, clay, and sand and a bit of goat hair, and it's initially mixed up and it dries. Next. And that's pouring into that space. And so as long as it's level, it's dead flat. So all you're doing is heating up hot metal, bowing it in, and letting it go cold. And that's it. Whereas a two-part mold would be extremely good. Be about 10 times the price to make. And this is it on the side. And there's some text on it. And the idea was that it's interactive, but it reflects some notions of kind of flora and fauna, things that were very common when I was a kid, but are no longer, or in some cases, at risk certainly, if not endangered. And also, if you remember the Trumpton Fire Station, for the older viewers that maybe don't want to whack it like the kids do, which should, the words only on the bell kind of reflected the rhythm of that, where it's elm, thrush, butterfly, bee, starling, sparrow, ash, pew, wine, glue, Cuthbert, dimple, crow. A few people got that. And the next. Again. That's the Chelsea one. I make a lot of singing bowls. Again, it's an Asian thing, but I make them casting from bell bronze, so they ching a lot better than the Himalayan versions. And this was an exhibition I had at Chelsea Space, which is a summer window, so people could only look through them, they couldn't touch them, they couldn't hear them. So again, it was that notion of thinking about the piece rather than a response to the visual, or having the opportunity to engage. And this was a bowl for commission. I've made a few dozen of these, even if they're a series, I never make two the same, so even if they're identical patterns, they sound different. Another lot of work. This was one of my first bronzes, bell bronze pieces, and that's basically a life-size copy of my shadow. I didn't quite know what to do about where to cut it off, so I made it look like a really expensive coat hanger. And the notion that came from this work was reading a Derrida book about he's talking about it's about blindness, but he's talking about a Van Eyck painting, and the transcription or the translation of the text was so bad that it didn't make sense, but he says about the Van Eyck painting, about Christ healing the blind man, and he describes the blind man as if a blind narcissist was inventing his own mirror, where the blind man's pointing at himself, asking Christ to heal him. I thought that's a really interesting thing. How do you do that visually? So this is how I get into bell bronze. So also through about that time, a few other bits and pieces happening. Obviously, death of my mother. My partner was diagnosed with cancer and subsequently died. So I was taking objects from personal history. This was her radiation mask. Again, these can be struck and run. This is a sketch of my teddy bear, again open cast, which you can see in the job lecture. And again, school rulers and contents of other people's pencil cases. So it was a case of taking lots of objects from personal history. My frying pan as a kid when I used to cook after school. And this is a boat that I buried in 1969, I have to admit, but my mother dug it up in, I think, 1998 or something like that. So it was buried in the garden. It's a very small boat, but it's quite cute. Again, it rings. But that work was, it's kind of a way of killing two birds with one stone. So going through a grieving process, but in a productive way. Another lot of bits I make with bell bronze, and again they all ring. And these paintings, they're basically topographical landscapes of Iceland, which are poured in the same way, but I let the metal oxidize, just let it go cold. So, yeah, the idea from this came from a Google Earth photograph that I zoomed into, and this was the first one that I did, and I couldn't tell the difference between it and Google Earth. So I had to ask people which is the Google Earth and which is it's quite a lucky event. But every time I make one of these, you can't tell what's going to happen. And slow down the oxidization, which is the bumpier bits, I can reduce that. But you've no idea what's going to happen because depending on the climate on the day, the moisture in the air, the heat or the temperature of the sand, the temperature of the metal, it's completely random. Chaotic thing. Next. And then I like these are little gas holes you see in the centre of the image. There's a hole in it, and those are little gas holes where the oil sand is trying to escape. The gas from the oil sand is trying to escape. But I quite like that because it is very much how volcanic landscapes are formed, and in Iceland, which I've not yet been to. The geysers and the open lava flows. Discovered myself and forgotten. This was a piece commissioned from Hermes, the people who make posh scarves and handbags. So because they were paying for it, I really loved the material and high quality material, maybe a bit poncy, but because they were paying for it, I was able to make this out of mahogany. And it's a kind of the theme of this work, this show, was the horse. Because the Hermes say the first customer was the horse because they were saddle makers. So this is a kind of cross between a huge horse and the vaulting horse, as I remembered as a kid. So if I stand under it and I'm sort of over 6 feet tall, I can, my head is below that, the top of my head is below the underside of it. So it was that kind of proportion of a vaulting horse when you're a very small kid, but it also had an allusion to the figure of a horse. And this This is a piece of work that I kind of love it and I hate it because I was asked by it was Merton Borough Council and property developers as a 104 public commission to make a piece, and the reason why I was selected was to make something audio. The developer and the council went bananas, no sound, absolutely under no circumstances. So they got rid of architectural furniture. The brief was to make something about the River Mondo, which is a chalk stream that runs from kind of Croydon Way and runs into the Thames near Battersea. A beautiful river if you've walked along. So they got their architectural furniture, this is about 2.5 metre high oak water wheel made out of railway, basically chopped up railway sleepers. So in some ways, I kind of find that architectural furniture, I also quite like it because it's nice to watch kids climb around and this is a private commission for a doctor who wanted something to do with him and asked me really loose brief, something about me and my mother. So it was about him and his mum.